I was astonished that um, Brock could claim that the mind doesn't deteriorate, and luckily, I'm reading a pretty appropriate book. It's by um, Oliver Sacks. It's called, if you didn't read it, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. And the first story in the book is about a guy who has, I think he has a lesion on his brain. I can't remember what exactly caused his symptoms, but he couldn't recognize objects very well. He kind of, he couldn't look at the big picture. Basically, he could infer who a person was by looking like at a specific feature, like a nose. If he knew someone's nose was shaped a certain way, he could kind of figure out that that was that person. But if he encountered another person with a very similar nose, and that's the only characteristic he knew about the original person, he would he might get confused, and he wouldn't be able to recognize faces. Basically, another example I just read in here: a woman. She, once again, I think she had a form of cerebral. Let me just check it. Mrs. S, an intelligent woman. I'll just read it. I'll just read it as quickly as I can from this one page. Mrs. S, an intelligent woman in her 60s, has suffered a massive stroke affecting the deeper and back portions of her right cerebral hemisphere. She has perfectly preserved intelligence and humor. She sometimes complains to the nurses that they have not put dessert or coffee on her tray. When they say, "But Mrs. S, it is right there on the left," she seems not to understand what they say, and does not look to the left. If her head is gently turned so that the dessert comes into sight in the preserved right half of her visual field, she says, "Oh, there it is. It wasn't there before." She has totally lost the idea of left with regard to both the world and her own body. Sometimes she complains that her portions are too small, but this is because she only eats from the right half of the plate. It does not occur to her that it has a left half as well. Sometimes she will put on lipstick and make up the right half of her face, leaving the left half completely neglected. It is almost impossible to treat these things because her attention cannot be drawn to them. He says it's called hemi-inattention, and she has no conception that they are wrong. She knows it intellectually and can understand and laugh, but it is impossible for her to know it directly. So, um, to claim that somehow the mind doesn't deteriorate is ridiculous. And I haven't studied the philosophy of consciousness really in depth, and I haven't formulated a position. Um, I guess I'm a knee-jerk physicalist, but I do admit, from what little I've I've read on the philosophy of consciousness, that there is kind of an explanatory gap or sort of a mystery there. I don't, I haven't, as I said, I haven't read enough about it to come to any conclusion. Um, so I don't want to just say subscribe or argue in favor of some purely reductionist account of how the mind works, but I to try to use the fact that minds don't deteriorate as some proof of God when it's so obvious to everyone that we have senility, we have amnesia, we have countless examples in this book of people with neurological diseases and deficits, and it's just patently ridiculous to try to claim that the mind does not deteriorate and that it's somehow preserved. I mean, it's similar to what Descartes argued that I can conceive of my body being um, my leg being off of me and it would still be my body, but I can conceive of it being split apart. It's divisible. Whereas I can't imagine my mind being divisible. I can't imagine having my consciousness split up in some way. But modern neuroscience has kind of disproven the idea that consciousness is indivisible because we can knock out all sorts of functions of the mind with shock therapies and just all sorts of having parts of getting lobotomy. We can the consciousness is very divisible, and each function has a specific or at least somewhat localized region of the brain. It seems like, although that might be more that might be controversial. Um, but I couldn't believe that he tried to claim that the mind doesn't deteriorate, so I had to make this video. Thank you for watching.